Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel here on YouTube, and welcome to at least the first of 6 end of the year lists. And to kick this whole end of the year list off, or at least for 2020 here, is of course with the top 5 extreme metal releases. I would say albums, but it's actually releases because there's at least one EP in this list, so that's why releases. I can't just really go on and say album and one EP, but it's just top 5 extreme metal releases of this year. So without further ado, this is going to be at least a little bit long, probably around 23 minutes here. Let's get right in to that list. Let's get into my picks. Coming in at number 5 is Endarkment, which is the 11th studio album from one of the most long-running, the most popular, and the most unique band within the realms of extreme metal. That is Anal Nathrak, again based out of the United Kingdom. These guys have been going at it for at least 2 decades now, and again this album being originally released here in October 2nd of this year. As far as my experiences with this band, I think one of the first, my brother is definitely hugely more into these guys, more so than me, but the last time I ever listened to an album of theirs was 2014's Desideratum, which had made one of my lists on Rate Your Music when I at least would do the list videos for there. I didn't begin doing any of these list videos for YouTube until 2015. But when I remember listening to Desideratum, which again, there has been 2 more albums in between Desideratum and Endarkment, I don't remember ever checking those 2 albums out, and I think, to be honest, I don't think I ever did. So, to kind of go from one album that was released many years ago to now this album, it's definitely different. I can definitely tell the contrast, because these guys, when it comes to Anal Nathrak, these are definitely one of the most unique extreme metal bands, and that because of how they mixed the industrial genre with black metal, with death metal, with here and there some grindcore, and at times more melodic stuff. Again, I wouldn't say melodic metal, because everybody's definition of melodic metal is definitely gonna be something, but when it comes to the realm of like, just in the extreme metal genre, melodic metal can mean melodic black metal or melodic death metal. I wouldn't say it anywhere comes close to a melodic death metal. It sure doesn't come to at least melodic black metal, but the melodic stuff that Anal Nathrak do is definitely unique to their style. And I wouldn't say metalcore. I wouldn't use that term, even though some might think that, but I would say for a good idea, I guess, would probably be Killswitch Engaged, but I wouldn't say Anal Nathrak's melodic parts actually come as close to being that. But it's just a different contrast between the more harsh, very screechy black metal or death metal style vocals, or at times I guess you could say grindcore, with the sort of almost operatic melodic vocals, how they go for each part and it fits for those parts. And that was one of the things that made Anal Nathrak a very unique band. Again, just being a 2-piece for all of these years, it's just impressive. But as far as my experiences with this band, Desideratum, I do remember, again, I played that quite a bit, or at least one time I'll say, so I guess not being that honest. And again, I enjoyed it for that. But when listening to this album, I've noticed that those industrial stuff, those, again, the parts that definitely made them almost to be a part of this sort of industrial metal genre, I feel like it's definitely been softened on this album. They definitely toned down a lot of the industrial elements and just went into more of a straightforward extreme metal album with plenty of those black metal, grindcore, and death metal and melodic metal structuring, but without a lot of the industrial metal stuff. Because I remember Desideratum, as far as my memory is concerned, it had more, it really featured a lot of those industrial parts. This album, Undarkment, doesn't feature a lot of that. They definitely toned down a lot of it as far as my listening to this album. And it's definitely one of those that really jumped out at me when listening to it all the way through. I was like, there's at least one song here that at least does have that industrial element, but it's definitely toned down for the most part. Which for any of those who isn't a fan of industrial stuff, that might seem like a good sign. But if you don't like the styles that I pretty much kind of summoned up and Null Nathrak as, you may not still like these guys. And I'm definitely not expecting everybody that watches these videos to really go out and listen to a Null Nathrak. But personally, to me, since every time my brother gets a copy of one of their albums, and when it comes to these end of the year lists, since I have to at least feature the extreme metal genre at least on my channel because of it's definitely sorely lacking, and I do like some extreme metal bands. Again, I grew up at least listening to some of the death metal and black. I wouldn't say black metal, but it definitely belongs in there. I've had my experiences with that genre and what I've listened to, so in some ways I have to at least showcase that genre here on this channel. So Null Nathrak being in that kind of genre, I have to at least listen to see if they're gonna be at least on this list. And sure enough, most of the time they end up being on these lists anyways. Though I don't know if they ever made it to any of the extreme metal lists for the best of the 2010s. I think they definitely were lacking on that list when I did for earlier this year, really around January. But yeah, this really, it's not a bad album. I definitely didn't mind this at all. I actually ended up, again, I like this one a little bit more than Desideratum. I think it left more of a better impression than Desideratum did. But that's not to really knock Desideratum. It was definitely not a bad album. As far as songs on the sound that really stood out to me, there's only 2 songs on here that really stood out to me. That's track number 4, which is, oh boy, let me see if I can try and, pronounce this. Libidinous, a pig with cocks in its eyes. Yes, that's actually the title of the track. That's track number 4. That track stood out to me. Same goes for track number 6, which is Feeding the Death Machine, which is, again, cool fucking title there. But again, those are the only 2 songs that really stood out at me when listening to this album. But still, really was nothing here on the album that I found to be bad at all. Again, I found this quite enjoyable. And that's not definitely something when it comes to this band, because of some of it is definitely interesting, and it's usually stuff that it leaves an impression, but not the impression that I think many people expect me to have, like basically, oh wow, this is awesome. Again, my brother is definitely more of the ones that's really into these guys. But I give these guys as much chances as possible to see when they really will freaking click for me. But I did like this. I was surprised how much I really dug this album. Again, more than I had dug Desideratum. So there you go. So that's definitely here at number 5. So it's a solid album. So I guess 7 minutes talking about this album, which is fine. I think that's a good way, since I don't know if I'll ever do a full-on review of these guys on this channel, but that's probably the closest you're gonna get to a review from these guys from me on this channel. So there you go. And Darkament here at number 5, again from Null Nathrak. So coming in at number 4 is the newest EP from a legendary British grindcore band Carcass. And I know which is the Despicable. These guys, again, legendary. Whether again, depending on which eras you like, they're more grindcore material or they're more I wouldn't say melodic death metal, but they definitely, again, they became more of a death metal band, especially beginning with Heartwork, which is probably one of my favorite Carcass albums. I love Heartwork. Though it's been years since I've listened to Heartwork, but goddamn, what the last time I had listened to Heartwork, which was many years ago, goddamn, that's such a good album from them. I don't care if they ditched a lot of their grindcore, gore grind, whatever the fuck you want to refer to their earlier stuff as. I don't care if you preferred that stuff. I fucking love Heartwork. I don't care if they ditched it. I fucking love Heartwork. Despicable, this EP, since again, part of the most recent new crop of material since 2013 Surgical Steel, which I've never really gave much of a good listen to. Funny enough, though, it's definitely that's an album. It's definitely worth me at least listening to. Finally giving that one another listen, but listening to these 4 new songs, which is supposed to at least lead way into, or at least hype up their follow-up to Surgical Steel, their newest full-length album, which is supposed to drop sometime next year. But these 4 new songs, with apparently it seems like, since I'm looking at one song I hear that's being titled album version, which is Under the Scalpel Blade, I am definitely thinking I'm going to take a good guess that that's actually going to be a song on the album. But it seems like these 3 songs are not going to be on the album, on the new album. So what we're left here is, again, The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, The Long and Winding Beer Road, or was it, yeah, Beer Road, it might have been, I don't know, B-I-E-R, Road, whatever. And then, of course, Slaughtered in Soho. So those are the only 3 songs on this EP that are going to be exclusive to here. Unless when the track listing for the new album comes out is when we'll know whether or not if Under the Scalpel Blade is going to be on the album, or will just be, again, just another exclusive to this EP. But as far as these 4 new songs, while I ended up enjoying this one a little bit more than a Null Nathrak, I do have to say, it will not come close to being as good as material on like Heartwork, but this was still an enjoyable EP from Carcass. I feel this is still some solid death metal, though. Again, I don't really recall ever really listening to a lot of Surgical Steel, but I know that there's been plenty of people that say that this material isn't as strong as Surgical Steel. And I can feel that. I can at least agree with that. This is definitely not a bad EP at all. It's just still enjoyable. If you definitely dug Carcass's past work, like again stuff like Heartwork or Swan Song or Surgical Steel, chances are you'll still at least like this material for sure. And if you definitely prefer that era of Carcass over the more earlier grindcore stuff, you'll definitely dig this too. So I'm not going to talk too long about this. This is still some solid quality death metal. Again, we're just clocking around 18 minutes and 53 seconds. So a 4-track EP, it's still going to be very easy to get a hold of. Again, it was released on October 30th of this year. I think that this is just a solid EP from these guys, so that's all I have to say. I don't have to really make this a completely long-winded, at least talk through of the EP. But again, it's here at number 4, so there you go. Despicable from Carcass. So, coming in at number 3 is... oh boy, I think this is actually, yes, this is their second full-length album. That is from a band I've already have talked about on this channel quite a bit, especially whenever it comes to Metaltober. It's one of the few death metal bands I really will talk about on this channel, and that is their follow-up to their debut 2016 album, Further Than Fear. That is Cult of Cropsy from Cropsy Maniac, which this album had been released on September 14th. So, of course, Carnivorous Records. And when it comes to Cropsy Maniac, I've already stated their name is definitely inspired from the villain in the film The Burning, the 1981 slasher film. And of course, again, just our guy Cropsy is pretty much depicting a lot of these album covers, even the last EP. Which titled Carnage, which is the only EP or in anything really that I really own or physically from Cropsy Maniac. And again, all the lyrics are all inspired by horror films. We got at least one Cronenberg bass song on here, which is Enter the Brood, which is inspired by his late 70s horror film The Brood. But we got plenty of songs here that at least are inspired by a lot of horror films. As far as musically, again, this is actually some solid shit. I fucking love this album. I really dig the guitar tone, probably because of, for some reason, this, compared to a lot of the past couple of Cropsy Maniac albums or releases, I feel the guitar tone on here reminds me a lot of Vomiter. I don't know why, but it just has that. But this is some quality, almost thrashy at times, death metal. And this is some good shit. Maybe brutal death metal here and there, but I wouldn't call it straight up brutal death metal. But it does have a little bit of that there, but not to the point where I really can call this full-blown brutal death metal. But this is just fucking solid. I mean, goddamn, we got 12 songs here. At least 11 full, real songs, because the intro track titled Black Mass, which is obviously an entire basically audio taken from a scene from a horror movie. I don't know what movie it could be. I tried to look up, it was from a film called Black Mass, but what comes up is that Johnny Depp film that was based on that crime lord. But it has nothing to do with that. Too early. The sound clip is too early to be at least the 2010s. It's too fucking early. I know, I gotta joke about some of this shit. I gotta joke. I gotta at least show some humor here. Give me a break. But there's at least 11 real songs. Again, it all clocks in at 34 minutes and 29 seconds. And goddamn, to try and pick out every single song is gonna be difficult because I pretty much enjoyed all of this shit to begin with. So that is here at number 3, which is Cult of Cropsy from Cropsy Maniac. So coming in at number 2 is the third full-length album from Swedish death thrash metal band Vampire, that is Rex, and which was released on June 19th of this year through Central Media Records. And this album boasts of at least, funny enough, again, 9 real songs, but again, 10 songs, and all clocks in at 39 minutes and 46 seconds, and wow. This is actually my first time actually listening to something from Vampire, and I don't know what the fuck was I doing. I don't know why was I not listening to these guys earlier on. Holy shit, I felt like I was missing something because I love their sound. I was almost tempted to put this in my thrash metal list, but it does have a lot of that extreme metal feel to it, where it definitely does belong in the extreme metal list here. Because this is a solid album. This is their third album. This is actually the first album I've heard from these guys. I'm going to have to go backwards. This is some solid shit. As far as their sound, to try and really sum up Vampire sound, there's definitely a mixture between that sort of almost old school death metal sound. Think more like the late 80s period death metal. For, again, example like maybe Death or Morbid Angel or Possessed. Or, you know, those kind of bands, or at least ones that might have bordered on that, maybe like Morbid Saint, though not as brutal as Morbid Saint, but it kind of borders in there. But again, the thrash stuff, again, Possessed, or maybe early Slayer, and Exodus, and so on, you definitely get a lot of that kind of feel. But what they do end up really mixing in when it comes to even most of the death metal, at least the elements of theirs on this album, is that Gothenburg melodic death metal sound. Like At the Gates is the only band that really comes to mind, but it just has more of a thrashier feel to it than compared to like at the Gates. And I'm mostly comparing off the first two At the Gates albums, but it just has that. But the thing is, the thrash metal stuff also reminds me a lot of like some more recent bands like Death Hammer and Antichrist. So that's another one big plus, because I fucking love those two bands. Those are definitely two of my favorite modern thrash metal bands, just because of the production, and it just has a raw feel to it, and Vampire just fits in that. But again, they're just more on the extreme metal side, but they could have easily fit alongside those two bands on a thrash metal list. This is some solid stuff. I mean, I really love fucking Inspiritus. Oh my god, that's got a hook to it. Each of this stuff is just great. I mean, I can go on and talk about this. I wish I reviewed this. I wish I fucking reviewed this. This is almost too good for me to talk so short about this. So I'm just gonna leave out here. I really recommend, if you like just good solid death thrash metal that at times has a very more of an old school thrash metal feel to it, that at times again has a good taste for anybody who's into extreme metal, especially death metal. Go ahead and check out Rex from Vampire. This is a solid album from these guys. So there, that is here at number 2, and just a good fucking album. So let's definitely move on to finally the number 1 album for this list. What is my number 1 favorite extreme metal album of this year? And it's one that I am, oh my, I couldn't believe that they released an album this year, because it's been so long since these guys have released an album. And these guys are definitely one of the earliest old school death metal bands. That is Norway's own Cadaver with Eder and Bile. At this point, it's only one original member left. That is Nitto, which again, he does a lot of the guitars, bass, and vocals on this album, which is actually, it seems to be maybe his second or first. Let me do a little quick checkup. Yes, this is his first album doing vocals. And again, these guys have been around since at least the late 80s or mid 80s at least. I think it's the late 80s. Yes, late 80s. Our very first album actually came out in 1990. That, of course, is Hallucinating Anxiety. And that's an album, I can't believe labels like Relapse or Nuclear War Now Productions haven't even reissued that album, or at least properly, and not just stuck to the bowels of unofficial status, because that is an album that I think deserves a official reissue. But this new album, Eder and Bile, good lord, I mean, to keep up with the theme of this band when it comes to time length, 31 minutes and 25 seconds. And it's 31 minutes and 25 seconds of just blistering sledgehammer, beat your ass, no BS, fucking death metal. This album literally beats you over the head with a fucking hammer until you're pretty much left fucking mush. There's probably nothing left on your body that at least is all at least bone. You're just smushed. Holy shit, this album absolutely is fucking brutal. This is some fucking brutal shit. I love it. My god. And this album was released on November 27th. And it's not that old, but right now, but it's still relatively early. But this is my number 1 favorite extreme metal album of 2020. This is fucking fantastic. I love this. And as far as the new guy, which is actually just again the drummer, Dirk Verburen, I don't know. He apparently had done some stuff with Megadeth, actually, funny enough. But his drumming on this album, oh my god. It's definitely, I wouldn't say technical, but it's just, again, it's just fast. It's just completely speed run, and oh my god. At times, I guess you could say here and there some blast beats, but for the most part, it's just so fucking fast. It's almost at times keeping in line with at least Hallucinating Anxiety, with a little bit of the last sound, which is Necrosis. Like a combination of those two. I wouldn't say it goes close to like Cadaver Inc., which that was like more black metal. I wouldn't say it goes close to that. It kind of mixes a little bit of that, but not to the point where it's full on black metal. Again, it's just straight up death metal. That's all I gotta say. It's a straight up fucking death metal. And again, and that's probably the most weakest album from Cadaver, which was that Cadaver Inc. album. That's probably the most weakest album within their discography, in my opinion. And I know that's probably an opinion that my brother definitely shares quite a bit. But still, this album is still better than that album. But this is just still some fucking solid stuff. I don't know if I can say it's as good as Hallucinating Anxiety, but goddamn, it's just good enough to be number 1. So there you go. There is my number 1 favorite extreme metal album of 2020. So there you go. So there you go. There was my top 5 extreme metal releases of 2020. If you have any thoughts on any of these 5 releases, leave them in the comments section below. But if you haven't heard any of these, like I've stated, they're just in the video, you know which ones to probably go on and check out. So again, like either the Cropsy Maniac or the Cadaver or the Vampire you know, any of those three, I think are definitely very much worth checking out. But there you go. Not to say that the rest of the releases here were terrible to begin with. No, this was my top 5. And again, I hope Pal enjoyed. Let's definitely move on to the very next list, which would be my top 10 speed metal albums of 2020. That's at least will be tomorrow. Everyone, take care.